Well, hello, all of my. Actually, I should make sure you're ready first.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. Hello, all my pandas and waffles. Welcome to episode 2 of the Closeted Diaries. I think the best way to start this episode off would be to share our pronouns. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am here with our wonderful guest, Nico. Nico, what are your pronouns?
Hi. Hi, I'm Nico Knapp, and my pronouns are she and her.
Perfect. Now that we've got that out of the way, today's episode focuses on the topic of bisexuality as well as your coming out story and a lot of the experiences that you have had within that, being in a religious family and with your cultural heritage and things like that. So, without further ado, would you like to tell us what your coming out story was?
Uh, yeah, sure. So officially, every coming out story, you assume you have properly come out, but that's not the case with me. So, I figured out when I was 12 or 13, when sexuality was coming out in schools and people were understanding what they were. I questioned for a good 2, 3 years of who I was. And, I was experimenting, like all teenagers do. And, my school, they weren't that nice, people who came out with their sexuality. And I know it's not that long ago, but it's only recent people have been accepting people who they really are and more understanding who they truly are.
I agree.
So, I was just, thinking, hmm, I like guys, but I'm feeling like an attraction towards females. It was a really weird feeling because I thought, oh yeah, they look cute, they look, so and so. I like their personality. Ooh, it was really weird growing up in my religious household. People around me, just straight, pure straight. I had no friends, nothing. I was bullied anyway, so I was always alone. But I found this friend group, and I had not you, Lord Panda Waffles, but I had a gay friend in my friend group at the time. And he was like struggling himself, and I had loads of really nice friends, which I was really lucky to have, who were opening up to who they truly are, and it made me question and wonder, what am I truly? Um, so there's a lot of things about bisexuality that people compare to pansexuality. God, I didn't know what to label myself either because I will talk about it later, but there's, some people get confused of the two.
Yeah, but
And I mean, to be honest, whatever you're comfortable with calling yourself or what you identify as, I think that's the main thing, to be honest. What you want to be called, what you want to come out as. Um, I I felt more comfortable being called bisexual and finding out, more about bisexuality and how do I differ from pansexuality and other sexualities. Um, and it's just easier to understand yourself more. So I I used to online date because it's really hard. It's
yeah,
really hard in real life. Scary socializing. But it was all guys. It was mainly all guys. I'm In my life, I've only dated one girl, which did not last long, but I kind of did miss that, and I still kind of do because I haven't explored that side much. I'm happily in a relationship with a guy, and I'm not saying I'm so-called cheat like people have misconceptions about bisexuality. No, I just wish at the time I experimented more and wasn't as scared. Um, so this girl, she was confused about herself as well, and she was in my friend group, and I didn't know what her sexuality was, how she was coming out. We were all new to this, and a couple years later, I realized, she likes girls as well, and it was really scary to talk to her about that because we were best friends and going to best friends to a relationship. That was that's, that's scary because you don't want to lose that friendship part. And it was just hard. Me dating other guys, her dating other guys, but me having a thing for her. It was difficult and heartbreaking to see. But I really liked this girl, and I was so confused about myself. I didn't know how to approach her, how to even bring up this topic. Everyone was open about it but me. I I did throw around the word, I'm bisexual, blah blah blah. But that's not a nice way to throw around the word if you don't even know yourself. Um, you know, I just wanted to have a label and know who I was, but I didn't feel comfortable knowing who I was. When we did start to date, I still wasn't comfortable. I was still confused. Am I bisexual? Am I pansexual? Am I straight? It was just a huge thing. It was really, really hard. Um, Eventually we did break up, but from me breaking up with her, or how I, it was so long ago, and it doesn't matter really, I found my true self. I do like girls and guys and everything to do with bisexuality. I identify as that. And I've had wonderful friends who have accepted me and even helped me realize who I am. Plus the power of the internet, There's a lot of people out there in the community who are so lovely. I did really want to go to Pride last year, but COVID hit, so that's disappointing. Um, but it's such a great community. But with my religion, because I am a Muslim, it's it's difficult to say you're Muslim and you're bisexual. It's really hard. Um, I'm gonna sorry, let me just pull up
Yeah, no, I was
this
gonna say
resource.
you actually touched on all the
Yeah.
questions that I was planning on bringing up, which is perfect. Now I don't even know what order to go in.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Um. So if you look on Wikipedia, which is everyone's go-to of finding things out, or
I love a
Google itself,
wiki.
um, if you search up LGBT in Islam, there's a lot of things that I'm going to talk about. So loads of people in my religion, like, they will judge you for not, liking a man if you're female, or man liking a female, vice versa. And if you stem for not being straight, that they are going to dislike you and hate you. You know, I'm just generalizing. I'm not saying everyone will, but that's how it is. You're going to be criticized, and, they're going to probably disown you. That's what I've been taught growing up. And I've had a lot of slurs from my family saying, if you bring home a girl, um, so and so, we're not going to like you. You better not be lesbian, are you? It was really hard. And I haven't come out to them yet. Um, I'm coming out to the internet first. Oh God. But
Surprise!
you know, it'll come out eventually. But it's hard because we got taught from young in our religion, um, arranged marriages as well. At a certain age, you'll be arranged marriage to a husband or a wife, depending on your gender at birth. And since there's this generation, you can be so many new things. Loads of people just don't accept that and don't understand it either. Um, in my religion, I'm gonna just on the Wikipedia page, we have a holy book called the Quran. If you know, you know. If you don't, well, now you know. um, but God never stated um which sexuality to fall in love with. Um, you know, it, if it doesn't state that, people are just making things up. Um, I believe in my religion, but some things people make up so ridiculous. That's in every religion. You know, we have things we follow by being religious, but some people just make weird things up that weren't even there in the first place. It makes us scared and worried of, coming out or being who we truly are. Um, especially with, sorry, especially with my family. I've not had a great relationship with them for a long time. Only these past 2 years, I'm slowly forming a relationship. So it's really hard to even talk about normal day-to-day things with them. So even coming out with a sexuality, which is a huge thing to me, really hard.
I think it's actually
You
a
know,
really
the
good point to bring up in that some
yeah.
people who haven't gone through this experience are like, oh, if you just come out and get it off your chest, it's so
Hmm.
freeing, but there is that anxiety because, your family might not be so accepting, or there's some kind of religious influence that bears down upon you that says what you're doing is wrong and you shouldn't be doing this. I've been
Yeah.
I mentioned in the first video, very lucky and fortunate. My family was very accepting. I was not raised in a religious background. Personally, I'm agnostic. I don't necessarily believe in a particular God, but if one does exist, then hey, I was wrong. Let's hope I was a good person. But with the pressures that you have, the fact that you were able to, I wanted to be able to make this to have a safe space for
Mhm.
situations like yours where you can't have the freedom to come out in the way that you want. Using this as a vent to still get out all those emotions and still tell your side of things without having to worry about some kind of like social shunning or being disowned by your
Yeah, definitely. Like, uh, seeing your first video, not because I'm in the second one, but as a
family.
viewer, no, seriously, as a viewer, it really touched me and really helped me feel more comfortable. I was already, but having other people coming out with their stories, like, not making things up, you can tell it's pure coming from their heart. They're talking like that. It's wonderful. It's amazing. No, the internet is such a scary place, but can be so beautiful at the same time. I met you by the internet,
Yay.
so it was great.
It was actually really terrifying for me to make that video. So I did not pre-script that video, unlike this one where actually I had a script and I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I just sat down in front of the computer. It took like 4 takes to get the intro right. And then I'm sitting there and I'm shaking really badly. You can't tell as well in the avatar since it doesn't track my hands. And I was just shaking, so nervous. I've never told my
Oh,
story in as much detail as I did in that video. I told my
yeah.
parents like when I came out, I had like kind of told my ex and my current boyfriend when I came out, but I never
Hmm.
told my story that explicitly and how I felt in the chronological order of everything going down. That was the first time letting it all out. So it was so freeing to do it. It was absolutely terrifying to think, what would people think about this story? Would they like it? Is it boring? Is it eccentric? Is it whatever it is? But it doesn't matter because it's still my story, and I wanted to be able to tell it the best way that I could, and that was to everyone.
Exactly. Like, it's better that it wasn't scripted. I know today is preparations, we have busy things at the moment, and we had to have it scripted tiny bit, but to be honest, I think it's majority not scripted.
Yeah,
We've
the
just
majority is
researching questions.
unscripted.
Okay, yeah, but our stories are pure. I haven't really told my story out loud before than text messaging. It's a big thing, like a huge weight you have on yourself, but finally expressing your feelings and your actual story, that weight is like lifted off you. It's, I can't explain it, but
Yeah, I know exactly
yeah,
what you mean.
it's a
For people who
yeah.
aren't a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, there's like
Mhm.
it's hard to explain to them because those of us who are in the community just know what that pressure is, whether or not you've actually come out. If you haven't come out, you have
Mhm.
that pressure right now. But if you have come out, then you've already gotten rid of it, but you remember it. It's something you never forget, so I'm told.
Mhm.
I'm going to attempt to explain as best as I can. For the people who are not a part of the LGBTQIA, the pressure that you feel from wanting to come out and grappling with your sexuality, for me, it was like a looming pressure over my head. Like you have a secret that everyone already knows about you that you don't. It's that kind of pressure, except it's the opposite, where you know and everyone else doesn't. But you don't want people to know because you want to tell them, but you don't want to spread faster than you're comfortable with. You don't want certain
it's
people
a
to know about
it's a really hard secret. It's like, we don't even know if this secret's right or not because we're experimenting still and we're just scared. If we say we're one thing, people are going to assume that. And then you feel shy, embarrassed, and scared because you might not feel like that anymore. So, say, like, you openly are straight or openly are gay, and then you might start experimenting and realize, oh no, everyone's going to assume that I'm this and this when you don't feel like that anymore. It's a really complicated thing. But once you finally accept and know yourself, once you eventually get to opening up and telling people and like sharing your secret finally to the world, it's it's amazing. Because we're true to who we are and we never have been. That's why we've been going through so much keeping this secret.
Exactly, and there's this constant
Hmm.
fear of people who are really close to you and people who you've known all your life and have been lifelong friends will just suddenly not accept you and cut you out of their lives just because of this one thing that happened. And I think that also plays a really large factor in the ability to come out is not knowing the nicest of people might just suddenly turn
Yeah. So I was scared to always be open, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a part of the LGBTQ plus community," because of my religion and my um, growing up. I was scared, but ever since I found out who I truly am, I'm proud to be part of this community. And even if I wasn't, I'm proud to support this amazing community. The people, we are all human. We all have emotions and feelings. We're just like you. Just because we have different preferences doesn't mean we're different.
on. Honestly, this has been beautiful so far. I'm really glad I did this. Oh, there's actually a couple points I wanted to touch on. So,
Hmm.
in the statements you were saying earlier, you had mentioned that in the Quran, it's not necessarily explicitly stated that homosexuality is wrong. That your particular God never said you can't be gay. This is a sin. This is bad. You're going to the evil place. I do believe, and I might be wrong on this, in the original adaptation of the King James Bible, in the transition from Old to New Testament, there was actually a mistranslation of one of the
Hmm.
commandments. So currently it reads, "Thou shalt not lie with another man," which the implication is you shall not be a man sleeping with a man, because everyone knows it was written for a dude. But originally, so I'm told, it was supposed to read something like "Thou shalt not sleep with a child," and was supposed to not condone pedophilia.
Hmm.
But the word for child and man were so similar that when they were writing it, they just scribbled it down wrong, and eventually that perpetuated this idea that homosexuality is wrong. And I think a lot of that stems from a practice known as pederasty, which was practiced in pretty much every country during, from Babylon to Japan, ancient Greece. It was a form of education of sorts, where you would take young boys, sometimes consensual, sometimes you kidnapped them, at the consent of the parents, not the children, and you would take these kids and you would go under some great philosopher like Socrates or Aristotle. They would teach you everything they know, free of charge. They wouldn't turn to family in exchange for sexual favors. So you had that kind of relationship. And like I said, sometimes it was consensual, and you're like asked to do that. It's like an apprenticeship because they're very open about it. They just happen to forget women in their orgies. But other times it was more of a, hey, you're kind of doing this, have fun. And I think they were trying to say that was not acceptable, but somehow that got mistranslated to men, which then led to this downward spiral of anti-gay propaganda that then
Hmm.
perpetuated into modern times.
Yeah, the mistranslations, um, since people rewrite our holy books, if you're religious or not, people rewrite them, and there's loads of misconceptions, and people believe in certain holy books than others, and you know, it's a spiral after a spiral. we start believing in these things, and then our kids start believing in these things, and so on and so on. And then we're all trapped in believing a certain thing when it's not even true in the first place.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, if you look up LGBT in Islam, it states the Quran narrates the story of the people of it says people of Lot destroyed by the wrath of God because the man engaged in lustful carnal acts between themselves. In the Quran, it doesn't state about homosexuality. It states about it's punishable by some death if you act out. Sorry, one second. Cut this bit out.
Let's cut that.
Oh, yeah. But on the Wikipedia page, it said the Quran narrates the story of the people. Um, the people are destroyed by the wrath of God because the men engaged in lustful carnal acts between themselves. It states that though nowhere in the Quran does it state that homosexuality is punishable by death, some condone homosexuality and transgender acts, prescribing the death penalty for both the active and respective partners who have engaged in male homosexual intercourse. Also states that there is little evidence of homosexuality practiced in Islam societies for the first century and a half of the Islamic era. And the concept of homosexuality found in classical Islamic texts resembled the tradition of the Roman antiquities rather than modern understanding of sexual orientation. So it's very jumbled and complicated, Islam anyways, but it never ever stated that a man should love a woman should love a man. Since centuries and centuries, men have loved men, women have loved women, and it's not seen as much. There has been people, deciding upon sexualities that man should like woman, woman should love man, but the God never ever stated that in the pure Quran. They just said about the death penalties for some partners. It's actually educating us about people who male homosexual intercourse. They were judged and killed, and this can be taken so many different ways. But this is my belief on it, of reading it out loud, that many people, they were punished for even coming out as gay, and we have seen that through history that people have come out and they were killed just for being gay or just for being other sexualities. Only now in the 21st centuries we have, you know, found more type of sexuality and we are more open to who we truly are. And but in some countries they're still not like that. And I am proud to be bisexual in England and I can openly say I am. In some places, you still can't come out, which is really unfortunate. You can still possibly be killed. And it's not a nice thing to see that it's still going on, but it still exists. Homophobia, for example, it's really, really devastating. Just because we love someone else or we love differently from others doesn't mean we should, kill them or be mean to them. It's really ridiculous to me that people would do such a thing.
Oh no, I totally agree. Very unfun
Hmm.
fact, unfortunately. As much
Hmm.
progress as it seems like we have made on the issue of sexuality and gender identities in over 70 countries, on this day, in over 70 countries, being homosexual, and even more so for being trans or some other form of gender identity, is punishable by usually imprisonment and in most severe cases by death penalty. So, for those of you out there, I strongly recommend advocating, even if your country, for example, the US or England, has some protections for the LGBTQIA+, there's still progress to be made. There's still a number of
Hmm.
issues that I can talk about that I plan to in the future of why we need to fix our shit because we are not equal. We're better, but we're not equal. Actually, speaking of England, fun fact. Actually, again, not a fun fact. Do you know the author Oscar Wilde?
I've heard of his name. Yeah.
He wrote books like The Picture of Dorian Gray and The Importance of Being Earnest. He was actually a well-noted homosexual of, I won't say it was the Victorian era. He
Hmm.
was actually imprisoned due to, he was married to a woman, but there's a good chance he had a male lover, and he constantly wrote letters to them. And it was actually one of his own books that was used as evidence against him for being a homosexual. It was The Picture of Dorian Gray. There was a lot of homosexual elements in it, or implications towards it, where it kind of leans towards pederasty. I wrote a paper on this in English. The two main characters have what appears to be a pederastic relationship to Dorian Gray, because he's young and youthful, and they want to teach him everything they know as older men, and they keep talking about how beautiful he is, and how beautiful his cheekbones are. Like, you kind of get.
Yeah.
But they
I
ended up
wish.
using that book to imprison him. And they
Yeah.
were like, you
I
gay.
wish. I wish we learned more about things like this in school. Like, the education system is flawed in many ways and needs to be up to date. There are many issues that we just bypass and we do not study. Like, I already knew that because I self-taught myself, but in schools, you don't learn things like this. And that makes it even more difficult in society when you grow up. You have to find yourself in your own way, and it's a really hard journey. But if education systems put in so many things up to date to this generation and age, including learning about LGBT plus community, which they have been doing, but it's very, very slow progress, um, then people would feel more comfortable in going to people and opening up much quicker than we have experienced. The generation before us struggled even more, generation before that, so on and so on. We are lucky to be born in this generation and era where it's just about accepted. If we if we were born in like Victorian era or very old eras, it would be hard.
Oh,
We would be
definitely.
lying to ourselves every single day of who we truly are. And you don't want to live a lie your entire life. Some people have. And you should always be true to yourself.
I agree. I think that it is much harder on yourself mentally and at one point physically to try and suppress who you are to yourself. Now, if you can't come out because it's unsafe, that's perfectly acceptable. I hope you come to a better situation, and I want this and the community I've created on Discord and my stream to help filter some of those emotions. You do have some form of outlet to come out, so you don't have to bottle everything up. However, as soon as you are safely able to do so, and you feel comfortable doing so, I guarantee you will feel better having done so. It is one of the best experiences of your life to be successful and happy coming out. So I recommend it. I would explore safely when possible, because you just might learn something about yourself.
Yeah, there's so many websites, there's so many ways to contact people now, and it's amazing to see that wasn't a thing before. Lord Panda Waffle's Discord server is amazing. You can truly open up yourself and you can be honest and you have people to talk to, and we're all here to support and love you.
And it's perfectly fine too if you don't understand everything there is about everything. For example, I'm still learning a lot about gender identities like non binary and gender fluidity. I knew they existed for a while, and I'm just now starting to figure out what that actually means to people and what implications that has on our concept of gender in society and masculinity and femininity. And so I'm still learning about these things. And I've been out for almost 5 years as a gay cis man. So if you're still learning, that is perfectly fine. You're constantly going to be learning about these things. We're constantly going to be discovering new ways to express our sexualities and our genders, and that's fine. That's healthy. As long as you are trying to get better and you're trying to learn with an open mind, that's the most anyone can ask.
I mean, there's so many different sexualities, new ones we haven't even heard of before. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I do highly recommend researching. everything as much as you can so you understand, have an insight, because you might come across some people who identify themselves as certain things you've never heard before. If you research about it, you're very respectful about it, and you understand them. That's all society needs. Like, I heard about demisexuality like 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm still researching myself. But long story short, it's like you're physically attracted to someone's personality, then, you know, um, before getting sexual with them. You fall in love with their personalities, and then you start stemming, sexual feelings towards them, so and so. I won't get too into it because this is bisexuality, but I'm still researching about all these different sexualities and sexual orientations and gender identities that are out there. And there are a lot, but it's just better to understand people and to realize what they go through just to open up about themselves, their stories, and everything.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you actually mentioned that. That's a perfect transition. There is so much to learn, and sometimes it is hard to tell the differences. Why don't we get to that educational bit? So, I didn't want to talk about things like bisexuality or gender fluidity or being trans without having that experience myself. Something felt wrong about it. It's better to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So, if I were to ask you, who does identify as bisexual, what does bisexuality mean to you? And what would you say is the difference between bisexual and pansexual? Because you did specifically mention you don't identify as pansexual. You've explored for a bit and you feel like bisexuality is fine. What makes that
Oh,
distinction to you?
so bisexuality distinction to me is I'm still confused about it because it's a huge, it's a learning curve. No, I feel comfortable with being bisexual, and bisexuality has loads of misconceptions. Like, bisexuality means you're not attracted to people of both genders, right? People think that. Um, but gender itself isn't a binary thing, uh, meaning that people don't all fall in love and fall into the categories of men and women. So that's why we get non-binary people and other types of gender identity that I still need to research on. Um, but bisexuality means different to so many people, and the actual meaning. Let me just get the true Google definition meaning of bisexuality. Um, whoops, I should be more prepared.
Yeah, sometimes Google's a bit wonky about their definition.
Yeah, I know. So, the true meaning on Google me is bisexuality is a romantic attraction, sexual attraction, or sexual behavior towards both male and females, or more than one sex or gender. It may also be defined as a romantic or sexual attraction to people of any sex of identity, which is also known as pansexuality. That makes it very complicated. That's kind of comparing bisexuality and pansexuality when they're kind of different things, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, that made it sound like they're the same thing. So, to you at least, in your own words, what do you think the difference is between bi and pan?
um, like bisexuality, some people assume that bisexuality people are like erasing non-binary people, and like pansexuality, you accept by non-binary people. But that isn't the case. Bisexuality, people assume that it's only male and women. Other people assume that pansexuality is a word invented because bisexuality people are misunderstood and excludes non-binary people. But that isn't the case. That isn't true at all. And that's a huge debate about bisexuality and pansexuality. Is people think bisexuals just don't include the non-binary people, and that isn't true at all. But like I said, with whatever you're comfortable in labeling yourself, that's what counts. But you should research and look into what they truly mean, and so you're not disrespectful to anyone who does call themselves bisexual or pansexual. some people look at the world differently. And some people are okay, but some people in the community just would like you to respect them and understand more about, what these words mean before you identify yourself as them. See, I'm still researching, I'm still learning every single day. Even if I know what it means, there's so many more things to know about before you can truly come out to people and identify yourself as these words. Some people take these labels really extremely, and you must be respectful of when you call yourself that.
I think that's absolutely beautiful, and I think that's a very important thing to highlight is that there is such a blurred line on a lot of these issues, such as differences in bi and pan. Like, just from what we've heard so far, I don't think there's a very strong distinction aside from what you feel comfortable being labeled as between bisexual and pansexual. And if you want to be bisexual or pansexual, if you want to call yourself both, that's perfectly acceptable. But I don't think there's necessarily an empirical way to split them down the middle and say a bisexual likes this, a pansexual likes this. And even people from the community who identify as one or the other don't necessarily know the difference. So it's perfectly fine if you are confused and don't understand either, because we're all still figuring it out. We're going on this journey together. And we're all
Like
trying to figure out who we are.
there's truth in both orientations, and you're valid to your own right. Sorry, like you can believe what you want to believe, and that's valid to you. But make sure you are always respectful and when talking to others of similar sexualities. And the community is lovely. Um, yes, there's good and bad in every community, but there's very many lovely people in this community. And they will accept you and they will even help you identify who you truly are. We are all confused and we were all at a time where we didn't know about labels. And we all learn together of who we are. So it's okay if people get confused because sometimes I still am. But it took me a long time to identify myself and feel more comfortable with one more than the other. But there are differences, and please research and be respectful about these differences.
Exactly. Be respectful, be valid. That's the two biggest takeaways I got from all of this. And I feel that's my message, and I think that's what it always has been at this point. Is just be respectful. Don't try to ask. It's okay to ask questions, especially if they sound ignorant, as long as they come from a pure place in your heart. I have been asked questions that some people might not feel comfortable answering, but if I know it comes from genuine curiosity and trying to learn, then who am I to say no? You are attempting to know
Hmm.
better, and who better to hear it from than the horse's mouth? As long as there is genuine respect in your heart and you are valid, just be respectful and you're valid. That's it.
Like from being bisexual, my community, I can say that we do acknowledge non-binary people. Like, in fact, like loads of non-binary people do identify as bisexual. And additionally, same with the pansexual community. They know the definition of bisexuality because, they were at a time where they were confused. And they also include non-binary people. Like, our communities, like, they don't mean the same thing, but we are both valid to identify ourselves.
Exactly. Now, that's
Hmm.
is coming to an interesting point of we're talking about acceptance and validity, but that doesn't always necessarily appear when we're being represented, for example, does it? How do you think bisexuals are being represented in the media? Are you being represented accurately? Are you being represented at all? Or are you kind of being, I guess I would use the word suppressed by the other, I'll call them the more basic and the more common sexualities, like gays and lesbians?
I mean, in these past like couple years, um, since we've come out, I've seen like more celebrities, sorry, be more open with who they are, and that's wonderful. But when I was younger, not knowing much about the world, I didn't see that much. It's only in the past 10 years or so, maybe less, maybe more, that these big people we look up to in the media actually have come out, and it's inspiring to younger generations to realize in the world there are these sexualities, there are these gender identities that you can identify yourself as, and you do have a say, and you do have a voice, and it might have been suppressed a while ago, but we are all moving as people in the media and in life in general to be open and truthful in finding of who we are. I mean, in life, you're born, you grow up, and eventually get a job, hopefully, and you live your life until you die. But throughout your journey, you figure out who you are and what you want to do within the figure out who you are section, loads of people still don't know, no matter their age. And having the media has helped so much in, um, you know, finding ways to understand who you are and feel like you fit in. Nowadays, I see so many celebrities come out as bisexual, pansexual, all the sexualities, even transgender and being non-binary, etc. Everything in the LGBTQ plus community, and it's amazing to see. Um, they have their own stories, and they have hid it. And I don't think you should be ashamed in hiding it. I know it's different for everyone. It was hell. I haven't even come out to my family, but if you have the right people, the right people to look up to, it's it's nice to find who you truly are, and you're not lying to yourself anymore. In the media, I know the media has a mix of emotions of truthfulness and lying, but seeing people come out being bisexual and not suppressed of that sexuality no longer, it's amazing to see.
I think it's actually really good thing that you brought that up. I remember in the episode of my own coming out story when I talked about this, I briefly mentioned those positive aspects, but I was focusing more on what I felt was a lack of representation of accurate LGBTQIA plus relationships where lesbians are over fetishized and gays are represented inaccurately, and people tend to
Mm-hmm.
represent the gays more than lesbians, and even just bisexuals are just often so downplayed if they're even shown at all. I think you have such a positive spin on this issue to talk about the importance of role models in our lives and how them coming out has such a big impact on us. I've constantly
Mm-hmm.
heard people say, oh my god, there's another gay romance. Oh my god, why does he have to be gay? We don't need everyone to be gay. But what they don't realize is we are watching these as kids and we don't see those figures. If you turn on any channel right now, go through 10 different channels, I guarantee you nine of them have straight couples or straight people. And you're going to be lucky if you find one with someone who's openly gay on it or who's openly bisexual or something like that. And when you're watching these things, it makes you question, is it normal for me to feel this way because I've never seen them on TV? They haven't been a character. Does this just not exist? Is this a real thing? Is it wrong? Is that why they refuse to show it? And by having that representation, you guys, this is okay. This is allowed. This is who I can be, and it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, like for your episode, there are loads of bad in the community as well, and they're shown in disrespectful and not the right ways, and it completely disgusts me. Because then people learn from that and then take it out of context, and then homophobia starts being introduced into their lives. When we're kids, we still don't really see much variety of sexualities and identities. Only recently we have in the media and stuff. There are positive outlooks, but there's so many negatives which do need a change, and hopefully with time they do change because we all learn, we all grow, and hopefully people understand more about these sexualities and we can learn and grow from them. And I find it ridiculous when, like, people fetishize lesbians and like that and look at them disrespectfully. That It's really ridiculous and really sad to see. Um, Loads of people don't realize they are doing it, but they are doing it.
Yeah, there's definitely some implicit biases that go into that where I've known people who legitimately say, I'm accepting the LGBT community, but they mean, like, I accept lesbians because I watch them online in those adult naughty videos, but they won't be happy if they see me kiss my boyfriend, or they don't want to see gay marriage become approved because they think it will ruin some kind of traditional marriage structure that no one actually cares about. And they don't realize the amount of harmful stereotypes and just harmful policies that come out of that kind of belief and how that impacts thousands of people across the world. I should say hundreds of thousands of people across the world that they don't even see. They will never see how it's impacted them, all because of this implicit bias in their head. But
Yeah,
I'm
I
really glad you
totally
took the
agree.
positive route on this. I was not expecting that, but I'm very happy. I think we needed a positive message. I really want to emphasize that yes, there are problems in the world. Yes, we still need to fight to be equal. But there is some good things to look forward to. Not everything is bleak. There is a silver lining. There are role models out there for you. It just might be a little harder to find, but they're there. Be sure
Yeah,
to find
I
them.
know this is slightly off topic, but before we all die one day, I want to leave a legacy. I want people to feel comfortable in who they are, and it ties with mental health, like you talked about in your first episode. I've suffered so much, and I would like to help people to have a place where people can talk to other people, and they feel comfortable and happy with themselves, because I know it's really hard for loads of people, and I know it's not easy, but I would love like a place in the community and to show that you can come to some people for that support that most of us didn't have. I didn't have, but with my friend group, I got lucky with that. And I got lucky to know some people who helped me. But majority of the time I used to hide who I was and fake who I was. And faking is never good when you're never true to yourself. Only recently I've started a journey to love myself and know more about myself and who I am. And that's a huge thing for someone like me who has suffered so much with mental health issues. But I would love for other people who are suffering and can't come out with their sexuality or identity to have a place where they can. There's so many websites and so many little communities out there that do that already, and I would love to be one like that in the world. Lorne Panda Waffles has been great, and his community is lovely. His Discord will always accept you and teach you things that you don't know, and we are lucky to have the internet in the first place because it would be really hard without it.
You're gonna bring a tear to my eye. That really means a
Oh,
lot. That like I haven't even been doing these things that long, and the fact that I'm already making an impact means so much. I'm so thankful that I'm able to help someone with what I feel like is so little compared to what seems like such a big problem. This is really a matter of little fish in a big pond, where I'm kind of throwing myself headfirst into this, trying to solve the world's problems with my small little YouTube channel and my small little Twitch, but you have to take things one step at a time and realize how helping one person makes a ripple effect, how it has a tangible difference. Because let's say you only help that one person, but they go help another person, but they go help another person. As long as we each keep doing that in our lifetime, that just continues to exponentially increase because that one person will now help two. And that one person just so happened to help three. That just keeps going on. And collectively, with our little steps, we can fix the bigger systemic problem. Yes, we need to tackle the big ones too, but never forget the little steps because the little steps mean more than you realize. And that's something that
yeah.
I definitely forget often. I always tend to look at the big picture and just try to get to the end goal, but sometimes you step back and sniff the flowers, smell the roses. That's the expression I'm looking for. You have to get back to smell the roses and realize where you are and ground yourself. Because you cannot help others until you help yourself. And once you help
Definitely.
yourself and you help others, then they will help themselves and can then help others. And just rinse and repeat.
Like I can generally say from true experience, I thought all that was stupid, helping yourself, then you can help others. Because I really wanted to help others. I did not care about myself at all. And I wanted to help other people, see people smile. But it actually got gradually harder to make other people smile if I wasn't happy with myself. I'm still not saying I am, but I am on that journey because I do want to make other people feel better and comfortable in talking to me or other people about many different issues, even if it's sexuality. Um, I would like to have a safe space for them to talk to me or even talk to some friends I have. Make a little safe spot where they don't have otherwise. And it's just a really difficult thing to do. But if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And I believe in everyone. And we are here to support you. And it's tough. I know it is. It really is tough. And we do have our bad days, but always appreciate the good days you have because we don't do that often. We need to look at the good times we feel more true to ourselves. Like, I get happy when I say, yes, I'm bisexual. I'm part of this community. And I am proud to be in this community almost every single day. Some days I do not like myself. And with like being Muslim and stuff, I find it awkward saying I'm bisexual. I have my bad days where I second guess myself. But you should always be truthful for who you are. And as Lord Pandawaffle said, yes, there's big problems in the world. And I'm not saying don't look at them, 100%. But these little problems, just simple ones, with your own self being truthful and then helping others, they are huge things too. To get to these big problems, we need to look at the little problems first. And I think they're not seen as much. These are the unseen problems that nobody really pays attention to.
I'm actually really glad that you brought up insecurity. That has played a large role in how I do things in my life and what I end up doing. So my name, if you don't already know, Minecraft username I made when I was 12. The three things I liked most in life: power, pandas, and waffles, and put them together. I think a lot of that love of power was stemming from an insecurity I had, where yes, I did want to make people happy, but I was afraid of upsetting people because I didn't want to do something wrong, because I was afraid I was going to mess something up and they wouldn't like me. And so, in order to do that, I wanted this sense of power where either I could make things turn out correctly, or if they turned out wrong, I wouldn't get blamed for it because I was all the way up here, orchestrating it so it wouldn't turn out wrong in the first place. And that slowly evolved. I sort of evolved away from that, but that led to new insecurities as I grew up, of how I looked. If you can't tell my avatar already, I'm not exactly the largest of people. I have battled with a lot of self-consciousness and worrying about how I look and how other people view me. I've never liked the sound of my voice. I still don't. I'm gonna have to listen back to this later.
I mean, same here, but
And people will always tell me, "Oh, you have such a nice voice. You read things really well. Oh, please read this thing for me." I'm like, stop listening to me.
oh yeah, please stop. I hate my
Literally,
voice.
oh
Why are
my
you
god.
complimenting me?
Exactly,
But
and I've always been terrible at accepting compliments.
I
But
mean, every time I listen back, I'm like, ew, that's me. But
ew, it's so bad. Who is
seriously,
that? Every time you click the Twitch
these
channel, this
days,
pops up.
I mean, once you're happy with yourself, we'll eventually get there. You need to listen to these compliments. Even I know there's people saying this and this, but the compliments actually do mean a lot. I used to always deny people saying, "Oh, you're this and this. Oh, you're doing this so great," and I still do that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna look back at this and be like, my voice is so bad, yeah. But honestly, if you're getting your word across and you're comfortable in what you're doing, what you're saying, and you're honest to yourself, and there's so many insecurities lots of people have. Bullying, for example, that's a huge thing. people are insecure of themselves and they take it out on others. And there's so many different reasons, but that's one of the big things. People just don't like themselves and they find bullying other people would help them in that. But you don't know what they're doing when they go home after school. They're probably upset or hating themselves.
Exactly. And one of the reasons I do use VTuber avatars because I still do battle with this struggle of insecurity, even though I have gotten a lot better and I'm recognizing the importance of self care and I'm going out and helping other people. And I recognize that a lot of my insecurities are just that. They're not true. They're just a distorted self image. I still have this fear of a bad first impression. Someone won't like me. Of I just don't like the look of myself, which is why I hide myself in the panda persona. But even as I do begin to accept myself and love myself for who I am, I do think I want to maintain this avatar because I do think it helps to represent the ideal of what I was versus what I've become now. I never 5 years ago would have been confident enough to put myself online. Even a year ago, I wouldn't have been confident enough to put myself online and talk about these things from the heart. And this panda represents the more confident side of me, I would say, and the ability to say all of these things without having to face myself, without having to worry about what I might think of myself. I just put it out there and be judged on the content of my character and the words that I am saying versus how I look and what other people think I
It's a metaphorical mask for your identity on the internet.
look. I totally
You
made all
have
this up
your
now,
own
but
beliefs.
yeah.
But no, but it is. You represent yourself as a panda who loves waffles from insecurity you made of your name. But from when you made your name to now, you have grown so much. And I can say the same with myself. Um, from when we first make stuff up to now, we've grown a lot. I know more about the world, and I never thought I would openly talk about my sexuality um to people on the internet, and I just wanted to, you know, um, be funny and make content and talk to people like many of my inspirations on YouTube, and to think about talking about my story of bisexuality and things around that, revolving that, is a huge thing. And I feel very privileged to even be here today and to know you.
Well, thank you. That means so much to me.
See, you start from somewhere, you start from small. And even if you don't think you're making much inspiration to others, you are. And if you continue just being who you are on the internet, it is scary. I'll give you that. There are some haters, but if you focus on the good things and people you inspire and motivate, I think the world would be a very great place because, technology is advancing now and loads of people are going on the internet at a very young age. That's a huge topic to debate on, but, um, people look at videos on YouTube. YouTube is a big platform, and YouTube, Twitch, loads of other platforms. They watch influencers and streamers and content creators, and if they come across videos where they're making jokes about the LGBTQ plus community, they're going to pick up on those jokes, and they'll probably use them in real life, and it will turn to homophobia, etc., etc. But your content means a lot to you and to your viewers. Whatever you put out, they will pick up eventually and maybe even use.
Oh my god, that's my panda makeup is gonna like drip now. I'm gonna cry. Like you don't. I don't think you understand how much saying that actually means. Like I recognize, and people have told me the impact. Like even yourself telling me the impact that what I do has on people. Some days I overlook that, and I think they're just being overly zealous. And I'm like, oh, it can't be that much. They're exaggerating. They're this, they're that. But just to hear it again and again, just have that constant affirmation that I am making a difference means the world to, because there is that nagging insecurity. It's like no one actually cares. No one's watching your videos. This video didn't do as
Hmm.
well because something you did wrong. It sincerely does mean a lot to hear it. And for
I
anyone
mean,
who's watching this
yeah.
right now, if you say it, I am reading everything. It does sincerely mean a
I mean, we're all human. I mean, you're a panda, but we all we all get insecure, and we all have our bad days, like I've said. I mean, even figuring who you are, sexuality, rise, because this is the close to diary. We've been off topic so much, but um,
it's all relative.
um, but just being honest with who you are and finding yourself is one of the main things I want everyone to take away from. Is you can love yourself. You can help yourself. You can find who you are. Honestly, I never thought I would be here to liking who I am eventually. I mean, I still don't some days, but that's just insecurities we have. Um, I never thought about being open to anyone being bisexual, even if my friend groups were open. I was closeted, as they say. um, Due to my upbringings and people around me. But once you find some people, once you find who you are, it might still be hard some days, but I know that everyone is capable in truly loving themselves and truly, battling these insecurities we all have in ourselves.
Exactly. Let's probably reel this in a little more related. Are there some stereotypes or myths about
Hmm.
bisexuality that, from your first dating experience, you would like to address and say, this is wrong, this is why it's wrong? For example, I've heard people say, bisexuality isn't a real sexuality. Bisexual people are just horny, and bisexual people just haven't found the right man or the right woman. How do you feel about things like that?
Um, there are so many myths, no matter your sexuality, no matter, who you are, you're just existing. There's going to be so many myths about what you believe in and what you identify yourself as at. So loads of people, the main one is bisexuality. Are you just confused? I mean, it has slight truth, of course, because we're trying to think and figure out who we are. But we aren't confused of who we love. Like, we love who we want to love, no matter your sexuality. We all have our preferences. We love who we want to love. But people fail to understand our sexuality. Um, People think, oh, we like more one just gender more than the other, and that goes on to people thinking, oh, bisexuality, you're greedy, liking more than one gender. That's not the case.
Stop stealing all the partners. Share some with the rest of us. Yeah, and
But yeah.
also I think there's that important distinction too of bisexual versus bi-curious. For those who don't
Hmm.
know, bi-curious is generally what people will describe as your exploration stage. If
Hmm.
you're definitively not sure if you like men or you like women, and you're experimenting with both, that is bi-curious versus you mainly experimenting with men, you're just trying to figure out if you're gay, or you're just experimenting with it, you might just be figuring out if you're lesbian. But if you were actively looking for both and not sure in any way, you're bi-curious.
Hmm.
I think is the best way to put it. There's probably some
Oh yeah.
technical wrong in that, but Urban
But yeah,
Dictionary.
but the label in our society is if you're not sure and you're experimenting, you are bi curious. But if you're certain and whatnot, there's just please do your research. Even we get confused, but there's so many things out there. You're either bi curious or you're bisexual.
And even some people might switch between sexualities. Some people might
Yeah.
go from straight
Oh
to
yeah.
bisexual to gay back to bisexual. Then it turns out,
Hmm.
oh, I'm actually straight non-binary, and that's fine. You're allowed to change it. No one's
Yeah,
stopping
you
you. It's your
you
sexuality.
have a voice. Yeah, you have a voice. You are your own person. You can change your preference. You can change your sexuality. You can change your gender. Nobody's telling you not to. Maybe some people in society or even your family or relatives might, but you as a person, if you're not comfortable with so and so labels and what you like and don't like, you can change that.
And you might piss off a couple people who you need to cut out of your life anyway, so you'll just know who they are.
But I mean, I know it's tough to, especially when it involves around family, because some people they're close to their family, some people are not. It's different with everyone, different circumstances. But if you upset some people, just know it's okay. And there are people out there.
Exactly. I think we have one or two more questions.
Hmm.
So, if I had to ask you for like a for dummies guide of how to explore gender identity and sexuality, what are the beginning stages of doing that? Like, there's physical experimentation, there's the introspective reflection. Like, how would you maybe recommend someone starts that journey if they want it?
That's a very good question. I think to start off as, just first step back and look at yourself. Look at everything to do with yourself. Are you happy with who you are? You know, are you happy in wanting certain relationships? Are you happy loving this certain identity? If not, truly deep down, then you can start looking at resources. You can start looking at influences and loads of good things in the media. You can look at the bad eventually, but I think to first start exploring, try looking at the good. It will give you some sort of motivation to look at who you are and look at what you truly like and don't like. And you can change it down the line. You can change it later on. It's just being curious of who you are, identity or sexuality, just anything. And I think to start off with, always look at yourself, take some time out your day, and really, really focus on yourself and what you like and don't like. And from there, you can research and look at resources and other things that are all available to us, luckily.
Exactly. We live in a wonderful modern age where we do have these resources available to us to express ourselves and to figure out what these things mean that we didn't even have like 20 years ago. So be sure to use those resources. Be sure abuse those resources. Make sure to use as many of them as physically possible because we're just getting more and more, and then slowly it just becomes this like wave of information. Just take your time with it, but use as much of it as you need to. If you need more than someone else, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, when people say resources, the first thing I think of is helplines. But, people are all different. Some people don't like talking. I mean, you probably think I do, but I really do. Um, I am very introverted with myself, and I like spending time researching myself. I don't like talking to other people. I don't like these helplines. Some people do like that, but personally, I like taking the time out my day, going on websites, reading other people's stories, or reading more about, sexualities, all in my own time. And with time, there's progress.
Exactly. I'm actually going to try and take some time after this to find a couple of resources to post in the description of the video if someone is curious to look more into their gender or their sexuality. Just find some general kind of et al. Resource to get you started. This is no means a comprehensive list. These are not necessarily personal recommendations for the best organizations. This is just giving you a stepping stone to work from. So do look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm lucky to be born in this generation and era. Wow, that tells my age. But to have people who were in the same situation as me. With my story, it wasn't as detailed as Laws Panda Waffles because I'm not that great at explaining. But I am lucky to have people who were my friends at the time to go through the same things as me. I I did take that for granted. And I know some people do feel alone. And trust me, I know some days we do feel like that alone. And we have no one to talk to and go to. And we're all suffering by ourselves. And it is really hard. I'm not going to lie, it is hard. But, having distractions Like, YouTube has been a huge distraction and impact in my life, watching content creators, and that's why I wanted to become a YouTuber. So hopefully impact and help other people who are struggling out there as a distraction, that you're not alone, and also educate them that there are so and so things out in the world. And there are other people who have experienced the same things as you. Not everyone, but some people have. And you can get through it. And there are things out there.
Exactly. There's one more thing I might like to bring up if you still feel comfortable talking about it before the end of this interview. You had brought up a story that you wanted to tell us regarding you said you had been sexually harassed and assaulted.
Yes. So this has nothing to do with my sexuality. This is totally a different thing. But it's a story that should be stated nonetheless because it is an issue in this day and age. Um, I have been a victim of sexual assault. There are different severities of sexual assault, but sexual assault is sexual assault. Even if people, you know, say, "Oh, your skirt, your top, they're judging you how you look and bullying you," that is still sexual assault. Some people don't realize that, but it is. But my degree of sexual assault is where I was almost raped, and I just came out to an adult the other week about my story. And I was dating a guy in school, and we were just hanging out at little dates here and there, just slightly more than friends. I wouldn't really consider dating, but that's what we called it. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. And I used to go on public transport with him to drop him to his house to give him company. Um, my sexual harassment started on public transport, which is terrifying. Um, sitting there just talking 1 minute and then him touching me inappropriately. Every time I said no, he continued on public transport. I felt weak. I felt powerless. I couldn't do anything. I know I could have, but at the time I felt like I couldn't do anything. Even saying no wasn't getting to him. This happened for a month or two constantly when I felt trapped in this relationship, felt like I couldn't leave, that I spent entire 2 months with him, feeling disgusted about myself. Eventually, one day, it was holidays, and being a nice person I am, I said, "Do you want me to come round?" I wanted to see his family and stuff, and spend time with him, just kind of as friends, nothing more really. I don't want to do anything. And he almost pushed me in the wrong direction of almost rape. That same day I was in his house. And it was not a very nice experience at all. I got saved that day because his family walked in his room. If they didn't walk in, it might have gone further. And I know loads of people have had rape and have been raped, sorry, and have had really bad sexual assault story. But every story is valid. And, you know, I struggled for 4 years after that, just feeling horrible about myself. That can be with anything, but with sexual harassment and assault, it's really bad. And I feel like there is a safe spot to come out. You might go through loads of trauma and loads of experiences of yourself, but it does get better. I promise you it does. And, it took me so long. Some days that I still feel horrible, but I know that I know there's other people out there who have the same stories as me. And with time, they know that it was in the past. And it's hard to move on, but it's possible. There is hope to move on. I got help with my significant other, um, only last year to just even get in contact by texting this person who did these actions to me and making him realize what he did. And by doing that, by actually telling them or, getting in contact with someone, even if it's really hard, it is really relieving saying how you felt that exact moment. It's not nice reliving it after 4 years. Honestly, it's really not. But actually telling the person and telling them openly what they have done and how it affected you, I think needs to be said more. I, I'm being honest, I never got into contact with the police. I never, 97% of people or like a huge percentage like that came out recently. And loads of people just don't contact people they need to contact. They keep it to themselves for so long, and that's what I did. It damages you and eats you up inside, and it's not good. But there are people out there who will listen to your story. And I know it's hard to open up about your story. It is. It really is. But, you gotta understand that in this day and age, this goes on with so many more people than we want it to. Hell, we don't want it to go on at all. But it does happen. And people need to be aware and respectful of people who have gone through these experiences.
I'm trying to figure out the words to express how I feel from hearing that. It sounds so empty and insincere, but I'm genuinely sorry that you had to go through all of that. That unnamed person, I'm just gonna say it is a piece of shit. And they're a horrible person. And I don't think they can ever recover from that. That is forever blood upon their hands, for less good metaphor. And I want to say now, you always have the right to say no. You have the right to withdraw consent at any time. If you withdraw consent, you don't have to go through with it. If they continue to go through it, please leave. Please go get some help. If you believe that consent cannot be withdrawn at any time, you're a piece of shit. If you believe you have the right to sexually assault someone and not care about someone's consent because of the length of their skirt, or the clothes they're wearing, or because they have lingerie, or because they said they were going to do something, you're a piece of shit, get off my channel. We're just going to say that now. If you believe these things, get off my channel. You're a terrible person. Go. You're banished.
Like clothing doesn't matter. Like, you can wear anything. It doesn't matter how covered or not covered you are. Experiences still happen. I was fully covered in my school uniform at the time, and it occurred. Never in my life I would think that something would happen to me so traumatized and have experience. Even if I was wearing like some revealing clothing, it shouldn't happen. What you wear doesn't it shouldn't affect other people, but some people are so inconsiderate and have such a bad mind in the world, and they take these actions, and it's really disgusting to see.
I agree. And I know, not from personal experience, how much strength it takes to be able to come out and tell that kind of a story, to have to relive that event inside your own head, and to remember all of the pain and the trauma and everything that has caused you. And I sincerely thank you for sharing this, especially with the, unfortunately, entire internet. I know it can be a lot, and I do think this will help some people grapple with their own traumas, and I think this may help some people come out and find better solutions to their own experiences. So I sincerely thank you for being willing to share this today.
It's okay.
I hate to brought down the mood a bit, getting a bit somber, but this is something that I do take quite seriously.
And it happened in my own school. It can happen anywhere. Even if you least expect it, it can happen anywhere, and we do need to be aware of some people. Always be aware and always be cautious. No matter where you are, it's terrifying. I know. It's terrifying to think that, but it's the honest reality. I I had counseling for a long time and I didn't really bring up my situation at all to any adult or anyone. But I luckily found and had those friends to open up to, and I got lucky in that case. Um, I'm always here, and there's so many different websites, and please do your research about any of the things discussed today. But I know it's hard, and some days, even after 4 years later, I still find it hard. But I know that I have told someone about it. I told an adult about it 4 years later. I have came to terms of what happened that day. Even sometimes it's not clear some days of exactly what happened, but with friends and especially loving myself, that helps with everything discussed today. Loving yourself and who you are really helps with loads of experiences you have come overcome in life. And it might not be nice experiences, but once you accept yourself, and I know it's just generic things everyone say, oh, love yourself, but it does help. It's hard to start getting in a pattern in doing so. And like I said loads of times this video, you do have bad days. But that's okay. Because you are making progress, even if it's small progress. It's progress nonetheless.
I wasn't expecting to cry making this video. I'm so glad I did this. This is absolutely beautiful. Everything you said was beautiful. Your voice is beautiful. Your profile picture, everything about this was beautiful, and I love it. I think there's a lot of very powerful messages in today's episode. This is why I wanted to make this series. Talk about these issues in this kind of depth, with this kind of emotion and power, to bring a tear to my own eye. Because I think these are things that need to be highlighted. And I think this will help someone by talking about these issues with personal experiences without all the inspiration porn and without having all these generic, oh, just get some help. No, it's to hear about what it actually does, what will actually help. And if it is just getting help, then yeah, that's what it is. But sometimes it's not that simple. And so it's good to hear it from someone who has that firsthand and hasn't just read about it in that textbook. So I do thank you, Nico, for coming out today. Thank you for the interview. I sincerely appreciate it, and I hope to see you all out.
Thank you for having me, and I'm grateful and happy to share my experiences about everything in this episode.
Before we end things here, is there one final parting message you'd like to give our viewers?
Just make sure you basic rules, step back, look at who you truly are, and if you don't like it, you can change it. Nobody's stopping you. It's your own life, and if you don't like something about yourself, you can change it. Don't matter about anyone else's opinions. It's your own life, your own body. You do whatever the hell you want with it.
That's a beautiful last message. I think my last message here will be: you're beautiful, you are valid, and don't suck as a person. And with that, I hope to see you guys in the next episode of The Closeted Diaries. Have a wonderful day.